Hello, Lucky Star Fan 77 here, and today I'm going to go over 25 music hot takes that I have. Number 1, the 80s were the best decade for music. Here, pop was in its best state, producing amazing hit songs, and alternative genres such as new wave and goth were starting in this decade. And just as a whole, for most genres, the 80s were arguably the best decade for them. I mean, look at all the classic albums that were released in this decade. The only main genres that I can say weren't at their peak in the 80s is probably jazz or hip-hop. But speaking of hip-hop, number 2, I'd argue that in the last 10 years, those 10 years have been the best years for hip-hop. Albums like To Pimp a Butterfly, Igor, Flower Boy, Miss Morale, We Got It From Here, Thank You For Your Service, and artists like T Grizzly, Earl Sweatshirt, JPEG Mafia, and others just prove this. Sure, there's been a few duds in the last 10 years, but as a whole, the last 10 years have been an extremely solid decade for rap music. Number 3. So, notice when I was naming these albums, I left out albums by a very important hip-hop artist? Yeah, that's for a reason. Yeezus was Kanye's last good album. Although, there might have been good tracks on The Life of Pablo, Ye, Kids See Ghosts, Donda, and both awful Vultures albums. As a whole, they just weren't great, especially Vultures. Yeezus marked the last album that Kanye made that was truly amazing front to back. Number 4. The rankings of the Beatles goes Paul, George, John, Ringo. They're all amazing though. Number 5. Leonard Cohen's later music is better than his earlier music. Although I do adore his more folk-esque music, I do prefer his later, more synth-oriented songs. Furthermore, as he aged, I feel like his writing became better. I know he was always a bit older, but some of his greatest works were written when he was in his 50s. Number 6. Frank Ocean is overrated. He isn't bad, but I think it's insane how highly he's seen. Blonde is a fairly average R&B album. Lyrically, it's pretty good, but sonically, it's just alright. Frank Ocean has the power to sound amazing. His voice is great, but he just makes some decisions on this album that are just not great, such as on the song Self-Control. But in all, he's certainly talented, but I find it's ridiculous that he's held up as this person who's supposedly one of the greatest musicians of all time. Number 7. Being an industry plant is not a real thing, because someone can only get popular if people actually like their music. No amount of marketing can push a truly horrible or fake artist. Take a look at Tramp Stamps, Lil Xan, Kid Buu. You probably already forgot about these people because they were bad and fake, which meant that even with the label support they had, they couldn't gain any success. Although this happened like years ago, I just want to say like Tramp Stamps has to be one of the most laughable attempts of a label trying to push artists. I mean, they're trying to like pass off as this feminist punk band, but they're working with Dr. Luke. And the music's just not that great in general. It's so laughable that they thought that this would work. And one of my favorite YouTubers, Drama Queen, made a little video about this like a few years ago. I suggest watching if you want to know more about this. Just wanted to add on to that because I think it's actually hilarious how they thought this would work. Number 8. The Last Dinner Party will be one of the biggest bands of the 2020s. They've already shown their success and greatness with the masterful Prelude to Ecstasy this year. And if they continue in this direction, I'm sure they'll garner a large amount of popularity. The masses are yearning for more rock-oriented music, and they have an answer. Number 9. For an artist to truly reach GOAT status, they have to have a consistently good career over several years. This is what separates someone who is good for their era from someone who is a genuine all-time great of their craft. An example of this would be Leonard Cohen, with him having a great discography from 1967 all the way to 2016. Similarly, David Bowie, all of the Beatles, Morrissey, Kate Bush, and many others who have had careers spanning multiple decades where their music has been consistently good throughout all of that time. There have also been many artists who are on track of becoming a great like this, but they haven't been around for long enough, such as Kendrick Lamar or Lana Del Rey. Although this line of thinking gets a little complicated when speaking about artists who died young, it still, in my opinion, generally holds true. Number 10. Lana Del Rey, in around 50 years, will be remembered as one of the greatest singer-songwriters of our generation. She'll be looked back upon like how we view Joni Mitchell and Carole King today. Number 11. On the flip side, I believe Taylor Swift in around 50 years will be remembered as someone like Barbra Streisand, who was very of their time and received tons of success during their prime, but isn't remembered that much, or if at all, it's for not good reasons. Number 12. K-pop should be more respected of a genre. If we're going to respect the artistry of Western pop artists, we should do the same for Korean pop artists. Number 13. The 2010s were the worst years for pop music. I honestly should have somewhat of nostalgia for this era, and I kind of do, because I grew up in this era. However, even as the proud 8-year-old I was, I knew most of the music during this era was not great. Which is why I became one of those, like, born in the wrong generation kids for a bit. But I digress. The biggest trend in the 2010s, primarily the early 2010s, was the combination of EDM into pop music. And I don't like that at all. Take a look at the Billboard year-end charts from the early 2010s. Some of these top 10 songs are absolutely awful. Was this song really worthy of charting this high over this? Number 14. Online music discussion is way too English-centric. Taking a look at the top 100 albums on Rate Your Music, nearly all of them are in English, save for a few Japanese albums. It's honestly a shame. Music in other languages should be talked about more and discussed at the same level English albums are. Number 15. Mainstream pop music was and still is generally bad, and the Billboard charts are a bad way of encapsulating a year of music. For example, look at the top 20 songs of 1974. Besides Benny and the Jets, Come and Get Your Love, and Band on the Run, what are these songs? You're telling me Barbra Streisand made the best song this year? Yeah, and now let's move on to a more modern year, 2018, which was a year of some great music. This is the top 20. Yeah, the middle is no business being this high. Number 16. Video game music should be respected more. Yeah, I know it's music from fucking Pokemon Emerald, but it's great. If this was produced by a composer for anything else, nobody would bat an eye. Number 17. Fantano is a good critic. Now, besides that Halsey review, Fantano has consistently shown himself as a consistent, insightful music reviewer. I know Fantano hates rage trap music, so when he gives something like Yeats 2093 a 7 out of 10, I think, wait, maybe I should actually give this album a shot. Number 18. Frank Wilson's version of Last Kiss is infinitely better than Pearl Jam's. I hate Pearl Jam's vocalist voice, and this version of the song has nowhere near the same amount of emotion that Frank Wilson's has. Number 19. U2 is one of the worst bands of all time. Bono sucks at singing, The Edge's guitar sounds like literal royalty-free music, and their lyrics are awful. Number 20. Thundercat is my favorite bassist of all time. Plain and simple, nobody else has written and played bass as great as him. His contributions to modern neo-soul, funk, and hip-hop is astounding. Number 21. On the same note, Johnny Marr is my favorite guitarist of all time. He's not all too flashy or in your face, but he just fits every song he's on. He's amazing, and he's written some of the greatest guitar songs of all time. Number 22. Nas would have been remembered as one of the greatest rappers of all time if he died like Tupac or Biggie. Nas's flow and rhyming is insane, and as a writer, he's clearly better than Biggie or Tupac. But instead, he's remembered as someone who released one great album that only people who are somewhat into hip-hop know about. Number 23. Auto-tune doesn't matter. If it sounds good, it sounds good. No shame in using tools to help that. Number 24. Cherry Bomb by Tyler, the Creator is actually pretty good. I think the album is overhated. Fucking Young is great, Death Camp is great, and oh my god, Smuckers is top 10 Tyler. Definitely not his best work, but it's not terrible like everyone says. Number 25. Billy Joel is one of the greatest musicians of all time, and he should be remembered as such. He's on the same level as artists such as the Beatles, and should be viewed in a higher light due to his contributions to music as a whole. I mean, most people view him as someone who was just kind of his era, when he's so much more. He's one of the greatest musicians of all time. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Pardon how I look. I look like I just took a shower, because I did. But yeah, those were my 25 music hot takes. Haven't uploaded in a bit, but we're getting back on that. I'm going to be uploading a lot more. Stay tuned for some year-end lists coming up. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.